This is the last video for the fundamental theorem of calculus. So we're going to cover this problem number 5. So notice that this has a calculator icon. So this problem is all about how we can use our calculator and use the fundamental theorem of calculus to actually do some really cool stuff. So I don't know if you guys have ever taken an AP exam before, but I have, and after each one, the internet is flooded with memes about the questions. It's true, it happened when I took all of my AP exams. So after the AP Calculus exam, students posted memes at a rate of, so this is already a rate, m of t is 231 sine of pi t over 24 for 0 to 24. So m is measured in students per hour and t is hours after the AP exam ends. So this tells us the rate at which students are posting memes for the day. So from 0 to 24, so 24 hours after the exam. After 12 hours, the College Board begins canceling scores of students posting memes at a rate of c of t equals 3e to the, and then that complicated exponent. So that's only for, that's a different interval. 12 to 24, 0 to 24. Okay. It is true that if you start posting memes with information about the exam, that you can, if they figure out who you are, they can cancel your score. Okay, and then S of t is going to be the number of students who have posted memes but have not yet had their scores canceled. Okay? So M of t and C of t are both rates. Since we're using them for a calculator problem, it is a good idea to go ahead and plug both M of t and C of t into your function, your y1 and y2 functions in your calculator. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Make sure that your calculator is in radian mode. Okay, so I have my first one in, and I am in radian mode. Okay, so that's my m function, which is the rate at which they're posting memes. And then the rate at which those people's scores get canceled is going to be my second function. 0.26 439 x squared divided by 24. Okay. So, the first thing we're going to look at is after 24 hours, how many students have posted memes? Okay. So this gets to our idea of area under the curve and what that means. So we have the rate at which students are posting memes. So if we find the area under the curve after 24 hours from 0 to 24, that will tell us how many have actually posted memes. So we'll go from the rate back to the amount. So the area is just the integral. Okay. So we're going to take the integral from 0 to 24 of m of t dt, because that is the area under the curve from 0 to 24 hours. And that will give us the amount of students who have posted memes. So I'm going to show you how you can take this integral on your calculator. So our math button, the math button is our friend. If you go to math, and then the 9th option is an integral. So we're going to take the integral from 0 to 24. And then I'm not going to retype in that whole m of t again. I'm going to go to my variables, y variables, and then my function. So that's my y1 function. And I did write my function in terms of x. I did type it out in terms of x on my calculator. So I'm just integrating my m function from 0 to 24. And this is going to be about 3,529 students. Okay, so that's what I'm writing down for question A. So about 3,500, oh, this keeps going back to 29 students. Okay, Part B, it says at t equals 19, is S of t getting larger or smaller? So let's look back at what S of t is. So S of t is the number of students who have posted memes but have not yet had their scores canceled. Okay, so M of t and C of t are both rates, whereas S of t is a number. So this is a bit, we gotta figure out how do we write S of t. So S of t, we can find that by figuring out the amount of students who have posted minus the amount of students who have had their scores canceled. And to find the amount, that actually means we have to find the integral. So this is going to be 0 to t of m of t dt. S of t actually only equals this for 0 to 12. S of t after 12 equals the integral from 0 to t of m of t dt minus the integral from 12 to t S of t, not S of t, C of t dt. So that's 12 to 24. Okay. So what this means is this first integral is the amount of students who have posted memes over that certain amount of hours. And the second integral is the amount of students who've had their scores canceled. So it's the amount of students who've posted minus the amount of students who've had their scores canceled. So we want to figure out, is S of t getting larger or smaller? So is it increasing or is it decreasing? So what we're actually going to do is we're going to take the derivative, figure out if the derivative is positive or negative. And the derivative, we're going to just take the derivative of both of those integrals. So this is fundamental theorem of calculus part 1. The derivative of that first integral is just going to be m of t. The derivative of the second one is going to be c of t. Okay, so what we need to do is figure out s prime of 19 is m of 19 minus c of 19. We need to figure out if that's positive or negative. So that's going to be, I'm going to evaluate my first function at 19 minus my second function at 19 that I plugged in. So I'm going to pick y2 here for my second function. Okay, so I'm going to write this down as about negative 19. So that's about negative 19. So s, keeps changing that, s prime of 19 is less than 0. Therefore, it is getting smaller. Okay. And then the last thing, at what time is the number of students that have posted memes but not yet had their scores canceled at a maximum? So that's saying we want to maximize S of t. How many students have posted memes but have not yet had their scores canceled at that time? Okay, so we want to maximize S of t. We are actually on a closed interval. We're on 0 to 24. So we will use the candidates test. So we will test our endpoints, and then we're also going to test any time where s prime of t equals 0. So those are our critical points. S prime of t, we already said, was m of t minus c of t. Okay. So we got to figure out, where is m of t minus c of t equal to 0? Actually, I need to be a little more specific. It's going to be just m of t between 0 and 12, and then it's going to be m of t minus c of t where that equals 0 from 12 to 24. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm first going to see, is there anywhere where m of t equals 0? And then I'm going to see, is there anywhere from 12 to 24 where m of t minus c of t equals 0? Okay, so let's go to our graph. The first thing I wanted to look for is just my first function. So I'm gonna turn my second function off. If you go to the equal sign and press enter, if I go to my graph, it will just graph that first function, which is what I want. So that first function, let's make sure we've got a good window. So x is my time, so I want 0 to 24. And I will just go ahead and tell you, we're going to go from, let's do -10. I'll just tell you to go to 250, and we'll do a scale of 50. I'm going to graph this. So from 0 to 24, the only times that m of t equals 0 is at the endpoints, and we're already going to test those. So the next thing I want to figure out, is there any time where m of t minus c of t equals 0? So now I'm going to look at the graphs together. So I'm going to turn the second graph back on. So m of t minus c of t is going to equal 0 anywhere where they're equal. So we want to look for that intersection point. That's where they're equal to each other. So if we subtract them, it would be 0. So I'm going to calculate that intersect. First curve, second curve, and then guess. So that is at 18.777. 18.777. Okay, so the points I need to test are my endpoints. So it's 0. I need to test that critical point of 18.777. So that was the point I got here. And then I need to test 24. And we're testing them for s of t. Okay. So when t equals 0, s of t is just the integral of m of t, d of t. But if we go from 0 to 0, it's just 0. S of 18.777 is a little more complicated. That is going to fall into this category, this equation. So that's going to be the integral from 0 to 18.777 of m of t, d of t, minus the integral from 12 to 18.777 of c of t, d of t. Okay. The second integral starts at 12 because c of t, the domain starts at 12. We're only taking away canceling scores after 12 hours. So I want to see if you guys can use your calculators to evaluate these integrals and find the difference between them. So in your calculator, you should be able to type out the first integral minus the second one. So pause the video and take a moment to try that. It is about 2,774 students. All right, and then the last one is S of 24. So we do the same thing. We do the integral of m from 0 to 24 minus the integral of c from 12 to 24. If we put that into our calculators, we get about 0.1627. So this is our absolute maximum. So it happens at time 18.777. And the number of students who have posted memes but have not yet had their scores canceled is about 2,774 students. And our justification is our candidates test.